My boots hit the rubber floor of Iron Haven Fitness with a heavy thud. The late evening crowd was thick around the machines. Office workers burning stress. College kids showing off. Everyone stopped what they were doing when they saw me walk in. I wasn't dressed for a workout. Dark jeans, work boots, and a flannel shirt rolled up to my elbows. I looked like a man on a mission. Chase spotted me immediately from across the gym floor. 6'2", blonde hair perfectly styled, muscles that screamed Instagram influencer. At 35, he had the swagger of someone who thought the world belonged to him. His face lit up with a smirk when he saw me. Well, he called out loud enough for everyone to hear. Look what the cat dragged in. He started walking toward me, chest puffed out, making sure every gym member could see this confrontation building. His voice carried across the weight room like he owned the place. Hey Grandpa, you lost or something? Senior centers down the street. Phone cameras started turning in our direction. This was exactly what he wanted. An audience for whatever show he was planning to put on. Chase positioned himself in front of the mirrors, making sure his profile caught the light just right. The evening crowd was gathering around us now, sensing drama. 40, maybe 50 people forming a loose circle. You know what your problem is, old man? Chase continued, his voice dripping with fake concern. You don't take care of yourself anymore. Laura told me all about it. My wife's name coming out of his mouth hit like a punch to the gut. But I didn't react. Just walked over to a nearby bench and sat down. I started untying my work boots, taking my time with the laces. Chase followed me, growing bolder with each step. He was interpreting my silence as weakness, fear, submission. Exactly what I wanted him to think. Laura deserves a real man, he said, flexing slightly for his audience. Someone who can actually satisfy her. Someone who hasn't given up on life. The crowd was eating this up. Phones were out everywhere now, probably streaming live on social media. They wanted to see what happened when young met old, when new money met old pride. I pulled off my right boot, set it carefully beside the bench. Chase was still talking, building his performance for the cameras. He had the crowd in his corner now, the confident young trainer about to put some old guy in his place. But something in my stillness was starting to unnerve him. You got nothing to say? He pressed, cracking his knuckles for dramatic effect. Cat got your tongue, Grandpa. I started working on my left boot, taking my time with each eyelet. The methodical nature of my movements was clearly frustrating him. He wanted anger, wanted me to yell or swing wildly, so he could play the victim after he dropped me. But 22 years in the Army Rangers had taught me patience. How to wait for exactly the right moment to apply exactly the right amount of pressure. The crowd was getting restless. They wanted action, wanted to see some drama unfold. What they didn't understand was that they'd already missed the most important part. The moment Chase decided to make this public, he'd already lost. I finished with the laces and looked up at him for the first time since walking in. My expression was calm, almost curious. You're done talking, son? Laura and I met 20 years ago at a veteran support group in Austin. I was transitioning out of the military, struggling with civilian life. She was a social worker there, helping guys like me find our footing. What struck me wasn't just her beauty, but her strength. The way she handled difficult situations with patience I envied. She was 22 then, full of fire and ambition. Wanted to change the world, one broken soldier at a time. I was drawn to her confidence, her independence, the way she never backed down from a challenge. We married after 3 years together. Bought a house in Cedar Park, started talking about kids that never came. Laura threw herself into her work instead, climbing the ladder at the State Social Services Department. I found my place in private security, using my military skills to protect corporate executives. For 15 years, we were solid. Laura would come home with stories about difficult cases. I'd share details from protection details that weren't classified. We were partners, best friends, lovers. The kind of couple other people envied. But patterns change. People change. And I'd been trained to notice when normal became abnormal, when safe became dangerous. The shift started about 6 months ago. Small things at first. Laura stayed later at the gym, coming home energized instead of tired. New workout clothes that showed more skin than her old conservative style. A different perfume that wasn't the one I'd bought her for Christmas. She'd put her phone face down during dinner, something she'd never done before. Started showering immediately when she got home, even though she claimed to have already showered at the gym. Little changes in routine that most husbands might miss. But I wasn't most husbands. 22 years of military training had taught me to read environments, to notice when patterns shifted. Laura's patterns were definitely shifting. The gym membership was new too. Iron Haven Fitness, an upscale place downtown that cost 3 times what our old gym charged. Laura said she wanted a change and needed better equipment for her new fitness goals. At 42, she claimed she was getting serious about staying in shape. I supported it, encouraged it, even. My wife taking care of herself was a good thing. I just hadn't realized she was taking care of someone else too. 3 months ago, I'd driven past Iron Haven during what should have been Laura's session time. Her silver Honda wasn't in the parking lot. When I mentioned it later, she said she'd switched to morning workouts to avoid the evening rush. But her gym bag was still in our closet the next morning and used. And she came home that night smelling like that new perfume instead of sweat. I started paying attention then. Really paying attention. The way I used to watch for insurgent movement patterns in Afghanistan. Laura would mention her trainer Chase more often. How he said this exercise was better, how he recommended that protein powder. Late-night texts started coming in, always when she thought I was asleep. She'd claim they were workout schedules, nutrition plans, fitness articles Chase was sharing. But she'd delete them immediately after reading, never leaving them in her message history. The coffee shop incident happened 2 weeks ago. I was meeting a client downtown when I spotted them through the window of a Starbucks. Laura and Chase, sitting close, her hand on his arm in a way that wives don't touch their trainers. They didn't see me, but I saw enough. The way she laughed at something he said. How he leaned in when he spoke. Body language that screamed intimacy. Chase Hamilton had appeared in our conversations gradually. First as the new trainer at Iron Haven, then as the guy helping her with her form, then as someone she'd grab coffee with to discuss nutrition plans. Always innocent explanations for why she was spending time with a 35-year-old fitness model. The photos on his Instagram told a different story. Shirtless selfies, motivational quotes about taking what you want, pictures with female clients that looked more like dates than training sessions. His bio claimed he was helping people become their best selves, but his post suggested he was more interested in helping married women become unfaithful. I'd done my homework on Chase Hamilton. Born in San Antonio, moved to Austin 5 years ago with dreams of becoming a fitness influencer. Worked at 3 different gyms, always leaving under mysterious circumstances. Always seemed to have problems with married clients getting too attached. Laura was just his latest conquest. The challenge of seducing an older, married woman probably appealed to his ego. Proof that his youth and muscles could steal someone from a man like me. What Chase didn't understand was that I'd been deployed in enough hostile territories to recognize when someone was gathering intelligence on my position. And I'd been watching him gather intelligence for months. My Army Ranger training had taught me more than just combat techniques. It was about reading situations, understanding human behavior, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Chase thought this was about muscles and age. He had no idea this was actually about patience and strategy. For 3 months, I'd been documenting everything. Photos of them at the coffee shop. Screenshots of late-night message notifications. Credit card records showing charges at restaurants during her supposed gym sessions. A paper trail that would make any divorce lawyer smile. I'd hired a private investigator 2 weeks ago, just to confirm what I already knew. The photos he'd taken were clear enough for a courtroom. Laura and Chase enter a hotel together, kissing in his car, holding hands like teenagers in love. The PI had also uncovered Chase's pattern with other clients. 2 married women at his previous gym had left their husbands for him, only to be discarded when newer, more exciting targets appeared. Laura was just following a script she didn't know existed. But Chase's biggest mistake wasn't seducing my wife. It was thinking I was too old, too tired, too beaten down to do anything about it. Tonight, he was about to learn the difference between looking dangerous and actually being dangerous. I said, "You're done talking?" I repeated, standing up from the bench. My boots were properly secured now, laces tied tight. Chase was still performing for his audience, still playing the role of the confident alpha male. "Oh, the old man's got some fight in him after all," he said, squaring his shoulders. The crowd chuckled. Chase was feeding off their energy, making my humiliation part of his personal brand story. "Tell you what, Grandpa," he continued, "I'll make you a deal. Walk away right now, and maybe I'll let Laura down easy when she asks about you later. Save you both the embarrassment." That comment confirmed what I'd suspected. Laura had been painting me as the neglectful husband, the man who'd stopped trying, who didn't appreciate what he had. She'd been sharing our private business with this kid, giving him ammunition to use against me. I looked around the gym, taking inventory. 53 people watching now, most with phones out recording everything. 2 emergency exits, one behind Chase, one to my left. Chase was standing with his weight forward, a typical boxer stance he'd probably learned from YouTube videos. You know what I learned in 22 years as an Army Ranger? I asked, rolling my shoulders to loosen them up. Chase's grin widened. Army Ranger, right? And I'm a Navy SEAL. The crowd laughed at Chase's joke. He had them completely in his corner, the young bull ready to put the old man in his place. He started moving toward me, probably planning to grab my shirt, maybe push me around a little for the cameras. That's when I smiled. Not the polite smile I'd been wearing since walking in, but a different one. The smile my unit used to see right before we cleared a hostile compound. The one that meant planning time was over. You're right about one thing, Chase, I said, settling into a stance he wouldn't recognize. This is about to be over. He threw the first punch, putting all his gym-built muscle behind it. A right cross aimed at my jaw, telegraphed from 3 feet away. I shifted my weight slightly to the left, letting his fist whistle past my ear by maybe 2 inches. His momentum carried him forward, off balance. I helped him along with the gentlest touch to his shoulder blade. Chase stumbled past me and crashed into the weight rack behind me. 45-pound plates clattered to the floor like thunder. The crowd erupted in surprised laughter. Chase scrambled to his feet, face red with embarrassment, looking around to see who'd caught his failure on video. Which was everyone. Lucky dodge, old man, he snarled, but I could hear uncertainty creeping into his voice. Chase charged again, this time going low for a tackle. Football move that probably worked great against other gym bros who fought like they were in a movie. Problem was, I simply wasn't there when he arrived. I stepped aside at the last second, used his own momentum to guide him face first into the rowing machine. The impact made a satisfying thunk as Chase bounced off the padded seat and hit the floor hard. His perfectly styled hair was messed up now, confusion replacing the confidence that had started this whole mess. The crowd's energy was shifting. This wasn't going how they'd expected. What the hell? Chase gasped, pushing himself up on his hands and knees. You're telegraphing, I said calmly. Drop your right shoulder before you punch. Lean forward before you charge. Basic mistakes any trainer should know. The gym had gone quiet except for the sound of phones recording. Chase's humiliation was being documented from every angle, his tough guy image crumbling in real time. He looked around desperately, realizing his easy victory was turning into a very public defeat. Stop moving and fight me like a man, he shouted, lunging at me again. This time I caught his wrist mid-swing, redirected his energy, and sent him spinning into the leg press machine. Chase hit the leg press sideways, the crash reverberating through the floor. More gym members had their phones out now, probably streaming live to TikTok and Instagram. His confident smirk was completely gone, replaced by frustration and growing panic. The crowd's laughter was getting louder with each of his failures. What had started as entertainment at my expense was becoming something else entirely. Chase was breathing hard now, sweat starting to show through his tight workout shirt. How are you doing this? He demanded, wiping blood from a split lip. 22 years Army Rangers, I reminded him. You thought I was lying about that part. Chase's eyes narrowed. He was starting to understand that he'd miscalculated badly, but pride wouldn't let him back down. Not in front of this crowd. Not with everything being recorded for posterity. I don't care what you used to be, he spat. You're just an old man now. He came at me with a wild haymaker that would have taken my head off if it connected. Instead, I ducked under it, let him spin himself around, and gave him the slightest push toward the free weight section. Chase crashed into a rack of dumbbells, sending 20 and 25-pounders rolling across the floor. Members scattered to avoid getting hit. Stay down, son, I suggested quietly. You're embarrassing yourself. But Chase was beyond listening now. His perfect reputation as Iron Haven's alpha male was disintegrating with every failed attack. He had to land something, anything, to salvage his image. That's when he made his biggest mistake. Chase grabbed a 20-pound dumbbell off the floor and came at me swinging it like a club. The crowd gasped audibly. This had gone from embarrassing to actually dangerous. Several people started backing away, realizing they might be witnessing something that could end very badly. The energy in the room shifted from entertainment to genuine concern. Chase's face was twisted with rage and desperation. All his careful grooming, his Instagram-ready appearance, his smooth confidence had been stripped away. What was left was just an angry kid who couldn't handle being beaten. "I'm going to end you, old man," he snarled, raising the dumbbell above his head. The phone zoomed in closer. This was the moment that would define both our futures, and everyone knew it. Chase had no idea he was about to cross a line he couldn't come back from. The moment Chase raised that dumbbell, I stopped playing around. This was no longer about humiliation or teaching him a lesson. He'd just escalated this to assault with a weapon in front of 53 witnesses. I caught his wrist as he swung the weight down, applied pressure to a nerve cluster I'd learned about in advanced combat training. His fingers went numb instantly, the dumbbell dropping to the floor with a heavy thud that echoed through the suddenly quiet gym. "Attempted assault with a weapon," I said loud enough for everyone to hear, still holding his wrist in an immovable grip. "You sure you want to go down that road, son?" Chase's face went pale. He tried to pull away, but 22 years of military conditioning versus 5 years of gym workouts wasn't much of a contest. His arm was completely immobilized. "Let me go," he whispered, the fight finally draining out of him. I released him and stepped back. Chase cradled his numb hand against his chest, fear replacing the arrogance that had brought us to this moment. The crowd was dead silent now, phone still recording, but the entertainment value completely gone. This had become something darker, more serious than anyone had expected. "You want to know what I really learned in the Rangers?" I asked. "How to read people," I continued, my voice carrying clearly in the silent gym. "How to identify threats. How to recognize when someone's been feeding information to the enemy." Chase's face went from pale to white. He hadn't expected this conversation to go public, hadn't planned for his personal business to become entertainment for 53 strangers with cameras. "See, I've been watching you and my wife for 3 months now," I said. The coffee dates that weren't training sessions. The late-night texts about workout schedules that got deleted immediately. The way Laura started showering twice and putting her phone face down during dinner. The gym was dead silent. Even the background music seemed muted. Chase was looking around desperately for an escape route, but the crowd had him surrounded. "Laura told you about our private life, didn't she?" I pressed. "About how I work long hours. How I've been distant lately. How the spark has gone out of our marriage." Chase glanced around nervously, his Instagram-perfect confidence completely shattered. His mouth was moving, but no sound was coming out. "What she didn't tell you," I continued, "is that I've been working those long hours to pay for her father's heart surgery. That I've been distant because I've been coordinating with specialists, dealing with insurance companies, making sure he gets the best care possible." I pulled out my phone, scrolled to Laura's number, and hit speakerphone. The ringtone echoed through Iron Haven like a bell tolling. Chase was shaking his head frantically, mouthing no at the device. "Mark," Laura's voice came through crystal clear. "I'm just leaving work. Is everything okay?" "I'm at Iron Haven," I said, keeping my eyes locked on Chase. "Having a conversation with your trainer." A long pause. "Oh, I can explain everything." "No need," I interrupted. "Chase here has been very educational. Told everyone about your dedication to fitness. How committed you've been to your workouts." Chase looked like he was going to throw up. The crowd was eating this up, their phones capturing every second of his destruction. "Mark, please," Laura's voice was tight with panic. "Let me come down there, and we can talk privately." "Actually, I think we're done talking," I said. "Both of us." Chase was just explaining to everyone here how he's man enough to take another man's wife. "Weren't you, Chase?" The silence stretched like a wire about to snap. 53 people watched, recording, documenting the complete collapse of Chase Hamilton's carefully constructed image. "Laura," I continued, "you should probably find a new gym." I hung up and put the phone away. Chase was backing toward the exit now, his reputation in ruins, his confidence completely shattered. But I wasn't done with him yet. "Where are you going, Chase?" I asked as he reached the gym's front door. "I thought you wanted to embarrass me in front of all these people." He stopped, hand on the exit handle, trapped between his destroyed reputation and his fear of making things worse. The crowd was still recording, still watching his every desperate move. "This is over," he said, his voice barely audible. Just leave me alone. Oh, it's over, I agreed, walking closer. But not the way you planned. Chase pressed himself against the door as I approached. The confident trainer who'd called me grandpa 30 minutes ago was now cowering like a scared kid. You know what's going to happen next? I asked conversationally. Those videos everyone just took are already uploaded. Social media moves fast these days. Chase's eyes darted to the phone still pointed at him. He was starting to understand the scope of his problem, how far-reaching his humiliation was about to become. By tomorrow morning, every gym in Austin is going to know about Chase Hamilton, the trainer who got dominated by a 57-year-old man. You set me up, Chase whispered, his voice cracking like a teenager's. No, son, I replied. You set yourself up. I just gave you enough rope to hang yourself with. The crowd was loving this. Chase's downfall was being documented from every angle, his influencer dreams dying in real time. But I had one more card to play. Oh, and Chase, I added, you should probably check your employment contract. Most gyms have morality clauses about trainers who sleep with married clients. Bad for business when it becomes public knowledge. His face went ashen. He hadn't thought about that consequence. The viral videos, the destroyed reputation, the lost income, it was all hitting him at once. Please, he started to say, but I held up a hand. The thing about consequences, I said, is that they don't care about please. You made your choices. You wanted to be man enough to take another man's wife, to humiliate him in public. Now you get to live with what that costs. I stepped aside, clearing his path to the door. Chase was trembling now, all his bravado completely gone. Next time you want to steal something from a man, make sure you understand what kind of man you're dealing with first. Chase fumbled with the door handle, desperate to escape the nightmare his life had become in the span of 30 minutes. But before he could leave, Laura burst through the entrance, her face flushed from running. Mark, wait, she started, then stopped cold when she saw Chase's condition. His split lip, messed up hair, the defeated look in his eyes that had replaced his usual swagger. What happened? She demanded, looking between us. Your boyfriend tried to teach me a lesson, I said calmly. Didn't work out how he planned. Laura took in the crowd with their phones, Chase's humiliated state, the weight equipment scattered across the floor. The reality of the situation was sinking in fast. Chase, she said uncertainly. But Chase couldn't meet her eyes. His image as the confident, dominant trainer was completely destroyed. He was just a broken kid who'd gotten in way over his head. This isn't how I wanted you to find out, Laura said to me, her voice small and apologetic. Find out what? I asked. That my wife was cheating on me with a boy who can't even throw a punch? I figured that out months ago. Chase pushed past Laura and fled through the door, leaving her standing there in front of 53 witnesses to their affair. Mark, please, Laura said, reaching toward me. Let me explain. I looked at her for a long moment, taking in the woman I'd loved for 20 years. The social worker who'd helped broken soldiers find their way. The partner who'd supported my transition to civilian life. The wife who'd promised to honor our marriage vows. No need, Laura, I said finally. I understand perfectly. I walked past her toward the exit, but stopped at the front desk where Iron Haven's manager was standing with his mouth open. He'd clearly watched the entire confrontation unfold. You might want to review your trainer policies, I told him quietly, and maybe invest in better liability insurance. Then I turned back to Laura, who was still standing frozen in the middle of the gym floor, surrounded by people recording her humiliation for social media. Laura, I said loud enough for everyone to hear. When you get home tonight, you'll find divorce papers on the kitchen table. My lawyer already has copies of the photos from your coffee dates with Chase. Her face went white. You hired a detective? Army Rangers taught me to gather intelligence before engaging the enemy. I headed for the door one final time. Your boyfriend made the mistake of thinking this was about muscles and attitude. I continued. You made the mistake of thinking I was too old and tired to notice what was happening in my own house. Laura looked around desperately, realizing that her affair was now public knowledge, documented on dozens of phones, probably already spreading across social media platforms. The house is in my name, I said. The cars are in my name. The bank accounts we opened when we got married. I closed those this afternoon and moved the money. Legally, of course. Everything is completely above board. You can't do this, she whispered. Already done, I replied. Oh, and Laura, You might want to ask Chase about his job situation when you find him. I hear Iron Haven doesn't appreciate trainers who create this kind of publicity. I looked around the gym one last time. At the crowd still recording. Chase's water bottle and towel abandoned by the weight rack, where his humiliation began. At my wife standing in the ruins of her secret life. Enjoy your workout, I said, and walked out into the Austin evening air. The hill country stretched out before me, purple mountains in the distance. For the first time in months, I felt completely free. Iron Haven's manager, a thin man named Hamilton, caught up with me in the parking lot. His face was pale, clearly shaken by what he'd witnessed inside his gym. "Sir, I need to apologize," he said, his voice tight with stress. "That behavior was completely unacceptable. Chase Hamilton is no longer employed here." I stopped beside my truck and turned to face him. "Smart decision. The videos are already going viral," he continued, pulling out his phone. "We're getting tagged all over social media. This is going to be a nightmare for our reputation." I shrugged. "That's what happens when you hire trainers who sleep with married clients. Maybe do better background checks next time." Hamilton nodded frantically. "Absolutely. We're reviewing all our policies. This will never happen again." As I drove home through Austin's evening traffic, my phone started buzzing with notifications. Text messages from friends who'd already seen the videos online. Missed calls from Laura. Voice messages from my sister in Dallas who'd somehow caught the live stream. The story was spreading faster than I'd expected. Chase Hamilton's humiliation was becoming Austin's entertainment of the evening. By the time I pulled into my driveway, #GrandpaJim was trending on Twitter. The next 48 hours proved more devastating for Chase than I could have imagined. The videos went viral across every platform: TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. Millions of views, thousands of shares, endless comments mocking his performance. Local news picked up the story. Austin trainer humiliated by client's husband played on 3 different morning shows. Chase's Instagram account, once his pride and joy with 20,000 followers, became a graveyard of mocking comments. Iron Haven fired him immediately, citing violation of their code of conduct. Other gyms in Austin wouldn't return his calls. The videos had made him unemployable in the fitness industry. His dreams of becoming an influencer died in those 30 minutes on Tuesday night. Laura moved out of our house within a week, staying with her sister in San Antonio. The divorce proceedings moved quickly once her affair became public knowledge. Texas might be a no-fault divorce state, but adultery still mattered when dividing assets. She tried to fight for half the house, but the photos my private investigator had taken made that impossible. The settlement left her with her car and her retirement account. Everything else stayed with me. The viral videos had turned both of them into cautionary tales, their choices documented permanently for the world to see. 3 months later, I was running the trails around Town Lake when I spotted a familiar figure behind the counter of a supplement store in South Austin. Chase Hamilton, looking older somehow, his perfect hair grown out, wearing a polo shirt with the store's logo. He saw me through the window and quickly looked away, his face flushing with embarrassment. The confident trainer who'd called me Grandpa was now measuring protein powder for college kids and middle-aged joggers. I didn't go inside. There was no need to twist the knife further. Chase was living with the consequences of his choices every day, recognized wherever he went as the guy who got dominated by an older man. Laura's life had collapsed just as completely. Her affair becoming public had cost her standing in Austin's social circles. Friends stopped calling. Invitations dried up. She'd been forced to transfer to the San Antonio office, starting over in a city where nobody knew her story. The viral videos served as permanent documentation of their betrayal, ensuring that neither could escape the consequences of their actions. Sometimes the strongest response to betrayal isn't violence or anger, but the patience to let people reveal their true character. 6 months after that night at Iron Haven, I was hiking the trails in Lost Maples State Park, watching the sunrise paint the hill country in shades of gold and purple. My phone buzzed with a text from my sister in Dallas. "Saw your gym videos made it into a Facebook documentary about viral moments. You're famous, big brother." I smiled and put the phone away. The documentary could have the story. I had something better: peace. For the first time in years, I felt completely at ease. No suspicious text messages to worry about. No lies to decode. No marriage slowly dying in plain sight while I pretended not to notice. I'd started running again, something I hadn't done consistently since leaving the army. The trails reminded me why I'd fallen in love with Texas in the first place. Open sky, endless horizons, the sense that anything was possible. My phone has been silent these days. No late-night interruptions, no mysterious calls from Chase Hamilton trying to steal my wife's attention. Just quiet evenings reading books I've been meaning to get to for years. Sometimes strength isn't about fighting. Sometimes it's about having the patience to let people hang themselves with their own rope. Laura and Chase had written their own ending. I'd just given them the stage to perform it on. The mountain air was crisp and clean. I had miles left to run.